And welcome to another edition of Working for Charities. I'm Trip Mitchell, joined by my team, Randall Carlisle.
My team. Am I the quarterback? No, you're the quarterback. No, he's the quarterback.
I'm not the quarterback.
Randall.
I'm riding on your coattails.
Yeah,
and this is John the Bear Absey, who is the stud of the group. Look at your arms.
I doubt it.
And we're going to get to meet
See the
Jackie.
belly. Wait till I show you the belly.
Jackie in just a second to talk about the amazing stuff you and your family are doing. But at first, we have to talk. You have been traveling the country. You've been enjoying your retirement from being the Utah Jazz Bear.
Yeah, it's been pretty exciting. When you first get done with something like that, and I'm sure you guys can both kind of attest to this, is that you at first you're a little nervous on where you're going to go, but over the years, the 25 years of being the Bear, I've just made so many friends and relationships, and I was really worried, about my passion for doing charity work, but it's all because of the relationships and stuff actually has gotten bigger. I'm actually doing more stuff now, so it's keep me on my toes.
Well, and the TV show resulted from Working for Charities, you and your partner getting to know so many amazing people. And this show, we want to focus on the charities that are a little bit smaller, a little bit organic, homegrown, and that's why Jackie is here. And I think the one thing that we'd like to tell people is that no matter what your passion is, you can do it. And that's our whole organization, and what we're doing is to try to let people know they can do it and maybe offer some advice in some ways, because when you wake up and you have a desire to do something, you don't know how hard it's going to be, but there are a lot of people there to help.
And the cool thing about homegrown charities is the fact that all the money that you're giving to this charity goes to where it's supposed to go, as opposed to some giant organization where they have so much administrative overhead and advertising overhead and things like that, and small localized charities don't, and it's...
And I agree. And then just with talking with Jackie in the back, I think when...
And by the way, you belong being in the back of the studio.
I really do.
You notice how, Jackie, we invited you in, we had a beautiful green room, but once John gets here, we send him out by the men's room.
They keep me in the back. They were just like, please go to the back.
He's not as furry as he used to be, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
It must have been a heck of a shaving job when you quit the Bear.
You know what? Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit.
No.
I was going to say, though, is... when it comes to charity work with, and what Jackie was talking about earlier is how many people will, outside of that charity will step up and support and, do things that you never really thought other people would do. And I love hearing those stories. And you were telling me about the roof and all that other stuff. And I love those stories.
So with that, Jackie, welcome to the show. And tell me about how, first of all, the name of your charity and what you do and your story, if you don't mind.
Okay, certainly. So I just started about 3 years ago an organization, and I don't even know if you can officially call it that, but it's just a little gig that I do, and it's called Christmas for Cancer Families. The way it came about was my son Riley, who is 23 years old now, was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, which is a rare bone cancer at the age of 17. And so we've been fighting with him for about 5.5 years now. And let's see, it was about 3 years ago that I met a gal named Danny Madsen. I was just getting my hair done, and she came in with her parents because her sister-in-law owned the salon, and I was introduced to her. And because of the cancer connection, we immediately just hit it off and started to talk and became friends. And then later I went to lunch with Danny, and it was probably in October or November, she voiced to me that even though she was ill and going through cancer treatments, that she would like to take her family somewhere for vacation over Christmas, but that they couldn't go far. And so I suggested that she go up to our cabin at Bear Lake, and she said, really, you would let us do that? And I was like, absolutely.
Would you let a bear in your cabin?
I would. If he teaches me some of his party tricks, I totally would.
I love the party tricks. Yeah, that's great.
And so as I was driving home from lunch that day, I thought, you know what? I could make this really cool for them. Like when they go into the cabin, I'd love to have a tree and pile of gifts for everybody and food in the fridge. And it kind of just escalated from there. And so I kind of know a lot of people. I write a blog and I have a yoga studio, and I just put the word out in some of the group fitness classes I teach and stuff. And I got a good response, and we were able to get a wish list from everyone in their family. And at that time, my son Riley, his cancer had come back into his lungs. He had been in remission prior to that. And we had just been told that his cancer was terminal. And so when you know that, it's like Christmas isn't super fun, and there's not a lot of gifts that you are meaningful to give in your home. And so we didn't realize it at the time, but the act of organizing that and executing that, and then driving through a major snowstorm a couple days before Christmas up to Bear Lake and putting out Christmas for essentially strangers, putting food in the fridge and shoveling the walks and turning on the heat, and then coming back home all day Christmas Day, we were just excited, looking forward to their phone call to see how their Christmas was. And that's what made our Christmas special. And so after that, I decided to give it a name. I think I originally just wrote a blog post and I titled it Christmas for Cancer Families. And then after it went so well, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this every year in honor of my son, Riley. And so we did it again last year, and we gathered so much money that we were able to do 2 families, one here in the Valley, and then a gal that I went to school with who passed away, who lived in Vegas. And then this year we are doing a cute family as well, and I can tell you more about that. But
So you're going through a tough time at home. Your son is battling hard, but it's not going well.
yeah.
Talk about that and how giving helps.
So just while I remember that, because you reminded me, I'm just going to read this verbatim, because I had a conversation with Riley this morning. I slept next to him in bed last night, and he's terminal. His doctors told us that he wouldn't make it to Thanksgiving, but of course he is still here because that's just the way Riley does stuff. I asked him, I'm going to speak at his funeral, and I said, what would you like the world to know? And he said to me, there were 3 things. He said, as long as you're making others happy, it will make you happy. So if you're sad, do something for someone else. He also said that it is up to you to decide whether it will be a good day or a bad day, regardless of your circumstances. So, did I answer your question?
You did. So you're in a situation at home where.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah, so Riley has battled since the age of 17. Initially, it was bone cancer.
He was a football player at Bingham High School.
He was the center. They had just won state. He had just gotten a scholarship to play football for Dixie.
And as it turns out, I televised a couple of their games that year. And
Wow.
was that program, Coach Peck and Bingham High School, was so amazing.
Yeah, they were on fire.
And they played against the team I used to broadcast down in Vegas, Bishop Gorman, which is the number 1 team in the country.
Awesome.
And Coach Peck does an amazing
Sure
job. So a center is the toughest guy on the line. He's the smartest and the toughest.
Yeah.
And that was your
And that's
son, and
Riley.
all of a sudden you had a horrible doctor's appointment.
Yeah. That's the last thing in the world you think. He had said he had a backache for months, and we'd taken him in and he'd had x-rays, and they said, we can't see anything. And finally one day we took him to a urologist because they said maybe it's kidney stones, and the urologist found a giant tumor on his lowest rib and called me, and he said, I need your son to come back for a bone scan. And I said, well, what are you looking for? And he said, well, he either has leukemia or bone cancer. And as I sat in the car that day, 5.5 years ago, the thing that I remember the most clearly and the feeling that I had was I grew up not really knowing for sure if I believed in God and wondering if he was real, but I know that I felt God in my presence at that time, and he said, this is where you'll learn of me, pay attention. And so since that day I have paid attention, and I see God's hand in every single thing in my life. So
But do you feel like God is responsible for this, and that you're mad?
Obviously we're all human, and there are days when I'm very angry, but I don't feel like God causes cancer, no. And I've written a blog post about this, but I feel like I believe that there was life before we came here, and I believe that Riley knew that this would be part of his mission. And I've felt things very strongly as I've walked by his side through this, very sacred things. And I believe strongly, I know that this was part of his mission, was to come here and to suffer and in order to teach others. I think he has learned 60 years worth of wisdom in 5. And I think his suffering has caused not only his family, but the community to learn invaluable lessons. And I believe that he knew he would do that when he came here, and I believe he agreed to it. And he feels that way as well. So, yeah. I think that pollution and, just a fallen world causes cancer, but I think that it can be a powerful tool to, help people learn and grow and develop traits that they otherwise wouldn't have. So
It sure changed your life around it and your way of thinking as well.
yeah.
I just listening to you and your husband in the back, and listening to you now, and talking about this, I just can't believe how strong you guys are. You guys, you just reading that text from Riley, and the 3 things he wanted. I mean, my eyes started watering up. I just think it's amazing that, here he is going to pass, but the only thing he could think about was giving back to other people. I just love that. That says a lot about who he is.
One of the things that a story that's super cool, because at that age, I believe that the age of 17 to 23 is probably the hardest age you go through anyway. And to have cancer on top of that, he was very kind of an angry, badass, entitled kind of kid when he was a football player. And as I watched him go through this transformation, it's been incredible. But I could see, even though the doctors had told us that he would pass, a year ago or 6 months ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever, I can see that he isn't going to pass until he's learned every single lesson that he needed to learn. And it was a couple of months ago that was the vice
president?
The vice president or whatever, at Nike in Jordan Landing. I don't think that's what you call it.
Assistant store manager.
Yes, the manager, not the president.
No, let's call him vice president.
Let's call him the vice president.
I'd vote for him. Yes.
Yeah, he would be awesome.
Yeah.
Even on morphine, he would be awesome. No, I'm just kidding. He met a little boy in there named Ricky, and Ricky's little brother ran up and was throwing balls and causing chaos. And so Riley, he's a big in stature, like 6'2", was 250 pounds. He's bald and got a full beard and stuff. But he started to talk to these little kids, and the little kid picked up a soccer ball, and he said, I get to go watch that player, I don't recall who it was, and see that soccer team for my wish. And the wish word, Riley automatically was like, wait, you get to make a wish? And the kid said, yeah, I have cancer. And they started comparing their chests where Riley had a port and where Ricky had a port. And Riley found out that this family had no money. The wife isn't married. She's got 5 kids. They can't pay their rent and all kinds of horrible stuff. And so here Riley is. It was right at the time when his cancer was getting a lot worse, and he was deciding not to do any more treatment. He just wanted to have quality of life instead of quantity. And he called me, and so he bought this kid. He gave this kid his Xbox, the little
game console.
Yeah, $350. I don't know. He had just recently bought it for himself to use at the hospital. And then he bought him a new backpack and stuff, and he told me he was going to go up to primaries and sit with this little boy during chemo one day, and he gave him this gift. And he called me on his way home. I was visiting my daughter in Logan, and he went on for about 45 minutes, which typically Riley doesn't want to talk on the phone with his mom. But he went on and on and on about, Mom, I am so blessed. I've always felt so angry about having cancer, and I never appreciated all the fundraisers and the people who reached out to me, but I never had to worry about having a bed to sleep in or food to eat. And I never had to worry about, like he said, my family just loved me and supported me, and I had a clean home to go home to. And he said, I just spent the day with Ricky, and he cried when it was time to leave the hospital because he didn't want to go home. And he said, I want to stay here because there's food here, and there's nice people here, and there's a bed here. And so to watch my Riley learn that lesson, not till the very end of his life, it was just, it's cool to watch God's hand in things and how he teaches lessons at the right time and in the right way. And because Riley's life is so short, it's been very, very colorful and eventful, and it's been very difficult. But I know that he had to learn every single one of those lessons. But anyway, Riley ended up, helping them get their car fixed, helping them get money for food and mattresses and different things. And then Riley's younger brother, Levi, was on a mission in Honduras serving, and he came home as soon as we heard that Riley wasn't going to live for very long. And Riley kind of turned the project over to Levi, and Levi started on Facebook, a GoFundMe.
GoFundMe.
Yeah, he raised several $1,000s for this family on a GoFundMe, and then Levi and a couple of his friends and my husband went to Ricky's house. They couldn't afford to live here in Utah anymore, and so they had some family elsewhere in another state. And so Levi went for a whole week, went up to the hospital and sat with Ricky, or went to the house and took the kids to and from school, and then went with my husband and packed them up and loaded up their U-Haul and moved them to...
So Randall, it's like we talk about where charity on a personal level is so much more impactful.
You don't hear stories like that. I mean, it's very moving, and if I presume if somebody donates to this charity, it just goes directly into helping other cancer families at Christmas. So.
Yep.
How do we get people in touch with you, and if they want to give and help out?
So the website that I use for this is my yoga studio, and it's called Courage to Be Yoga. And 10%,
Courage to Be Yoga.
Yeah.
All one word, small letters.
And Lee will put that up on the bottom of the screen so you'll be able to see it.
Yep. So I try to teach people to have the courage to be where you are. So to feel every emotion, to live in the moment. That's kind of what Riley and I have learned together. And I've studied a lot about that kind of stuff. So that's where the name comes from. But
I smacked my lips. I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, I was going to say something, and I was like, you're not done. I'm so sorry.
I thought you had something important to say.
I'm cut you off.
That's all good.
A lot of people go from bear to being talk show host. It's a natural.
Yeah.
I was
Bear,
lying for 25 years.
Yeah, John, you could not say a word for 25 years.
But I do need to add this. The thing that I think is amazing, too, is how somebody like Riley, who should be kind of pissed off at the world.
I would think so.
And angry.
At that age,
At
too.
that age.
I got my whole life in
Right.
front of me, and I don't
Well, we
now.
do have several holes in the walls at our house.
No,
from Riley.
and I which, God bless him,
Yeah.
because that is totally acceptable.
But
now,
actually, I think those came before he got cancer. So.
but
He was an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
it's the fact that he is out giving of himself, helping other people in the same situation he's in. And then what's hard, and I'm just saying, and then there's some of these people out there who have everything going for them, and they have all of, all the health in the world, and all the money in the world. And
Would they be Kardashians?
making the Kardashians.
Yeah.
And do you think that they're out there, helping?
I got a zit on my face. That's a big deal today.
Yeah,
That's a-
But, so I just think that whole comparison, it's just, it's so crazy that until you get put in a situation like that, reality doesn't hit you. And I don't know, I just think it's amazing that he did what he did for that little boy and that family. And I don't know, that's awesome.
Isn't it interesting how people respond to adversity?
Yeah.
And some people, it brings out the best in them, and your son and your family are an example of that. And some people, a little adversity, and it's not character weakness if people don't respond well to it, but what he said about you can determine your attitude,
Yeah.
that is so important. Because I know that self-talk can be so negative. We're times, and Randall and I are a member of the same club, which isn't a fun club to be a member of. But sometimes self-talk, if you've
He's
got...
talking AA, in case
Yeah.
you were wondering. So.
Yeah. And in AA, sometimes if you've got an alcohol issue, which I have and am working on every day, you have negative self-talk. You'll say, I hate myself, I hate my situation, I hate my life.
Yeah.
And it'll just be kind of
Or something like her situation, you say, I'm going to go get drunk. I mean, but you guys responded in such a positive way. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. I started a blog called Embracing Adversity a little over a year ago, right after Riley's cancer came back. And it was just a platform for me. When Riley got cancer, I feel like I was given the gift to write. And so I started a Facebook page for him, which he actually hated with every fiber of his being.
Oh, Mom!
It was called, what was it? What was it called?
Paul, do you have it?
Go Team Riley. It was called Go Team Riley. and it was number 68 because that was his football number. And he hated it so bad that eventually I changed it to the Cullies Embracing Adversity. But we got like 2,200 followers right off the bat because I was up at the hospital writing real emotions and feelings, and people, I think, relate with that. But yeah, adversity. I asked Riley, we had a great conversation this morning too, and I just said, I told him everything I loved about him and how proud I was of him, and I said, is there anything you're proud of me for? What do you see me as? Please let him say one thing. And he said, you're resilient, and I was like, yes, I am that. And then he said that he liked the fact that everything I believed in and decided to do, I followed through with and finished to the end. And that's my intention for Christmas or Christmas for cancer families. One of the big things that I am an advocate for is the fact that while the kids who have cancer definitely are struggling, their siblings, I would say, are struggling worse and their parents. And I think that we as human beings, we don't know unless we've been in that situation, but all of our prayers and our gifts and our everything kind of go to the cancer patient. And I've watched my 2 other children just kind of be forgotten. And so Levi, my younger son, who's just incredible, anytime somebody greets him, the first thing they say is, how's your brother? And so he's known as Riley's brother. And then now that Riley's passing, Riley has given Levi his truck and his guns and his dog. And so now he's got this additional overlay of Riley on top of him. And it's like he's fighting to not just disappear under this. And it's sad. And so part of what I'd like to do with Christmas for Cancer Families is really to make everyone in the family feel loved and appreciated and special, so that it can just be one positive day for them in their hellish life. And I pray that I'll be able to do this in Riley's honor, and that it will go on for a long, long time, maybe forever. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here on this show with you guys.
Well, I am a pretty good guess on things, and I've got a feeling this will go on for a long, long time. And again, it's an example, and Randall and John, we talk about it all the time, where one person can make a difference.
Sure.
And that is wonderful. That doing something like that and taking a horrible situation and making a positive out of it is really an example of the best that we have here in the state of Utah.
And not just the charity, I think people listening to your point of view and how you began to cope with life when this happened is a real eye-opener. It was to me just listening to you, so thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So you asked earlier how people can contribute, and I didn't do a great job of explaining that, but there's the website called couragetobeyoga.com, and in that you'll find my blog, which is called Embracing Adversity, and then there's a tab in there called Christmas for Cancer Families, and you'll see the information on whichever family we're doing that year, and then there's a button down at the bottom that says donate now or I want to donate. And it's not really high tech right now at this point because I'm just, not really, those aren't my specialties, but I have some help. And it will just, if you click that button, it'll send an email to myself, and I don't know.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Put me on the spot, and I won't remember anything, but that's how you can donate. And I hope that to eventually not just have it be one family a year, but lots of families.
And we had Christy a couple weeks ago on the show from the Falcons, and she's doing something amazing with her family. And these stories and meeting people like you, Jackie, have been just wonderful. And I know John and Randall and I love what we do with this, and it's because of people like you.
Well, thank you.
And keep blogging. Because I'll tell you what, I think people in your situation, because with a lot of the people that we've had on here, they've all blogged, and I think a lot of it is for your own healing.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is a way for you to kind of vent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just need to get it out instead of hold it in. And so keep on blogging.
Okay, thank you.
Jackie Cullen, our guest. We'll see you next time. For Randall and John, I'm Tripp, saying thanks for watching. Bye-bye.